Final hour overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Luke Willson coming up. Pierre, LeBrun, our best bets, powered by FanDuel later in the hour. Raptors, they won both games down in Atlanta. They smoked the Hawks on Saturday. They've got New Orleans in town. I don't know what they think they're doing. Like, why are you starting to win games? I mean, I thought we were all committed to the tank here. But
not like they're going to climb into the...
Well, I mean, listen, there's some awful teams in the league, Noodles. They're not going to ever be in a playoff hunt.
But don't separate yourself from the basement.
Yeah, like stay down there, right? With New Orleans, like tonight's a tank off. Like New Orleans is 12-34, Raps are 13-32.
Yeah.
You think this kid at Duke is
that good?
Cooper Flag, it's tough to say, man. He looks great. Like, obviously, he looks great. Numbers are off the charts. He's worth taking and giving it a shot of. That is for sure. And Scotty Barnes has been playing better recently. He was just named the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. That's what you're hoping for. Cooper Flag with Scotty Barnes. The rest you figure out.
Grady Dick.
He had a good start. He's kind of blending in now. He is on every commercial, though.
Yeah.
Brady's got a good agent, man. That guy's doing a lot of work in terms of commercials.
I still get... I don't know. What do you think of that? I'm not. What do you make?
The one I had a difficult time with was Scotty Barnes makes $285 million, and he's on like the trades commercial where he's got like the hard hat. It's like I have a tough time.
Blue collar Scotty, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
you're having a tough time with that?
He could do the phone with Jack. I have a tough time with the trade, taking it seriously.
Hey, listen, man, it's out there.
You're shoving just some coin in your jeans, man.
Strike while the iron's hot, right? Like, that's the reality. Strike while the iron's hot. All right, so Luke coming up here in a moment. If you're tracking Hazenbro versus Team O'Win Willson, it's not good for Hazenbro right now. We're down 3 points. We're down 3 points going into the Super Bowl. And Doogie has supplied, I think, a beautiful point system for the Super Bowl and what we're chasing and what's going to be on the table, right, in terms of points available and the different props we're going to play. And
there was some language in the text, though, because I think Luke and O didn't care for his system.
Well, they never care for the system because they're losers.
Well, we mean business, and we don't want to play games like Color of the Gatorade and Coin Flip.
I understand that, but there's got to be an element of fun and originality when it comes to the Super Bowl, right? It's about
what the O'Win Willson is cooking.
That is sickening to get cut off by that, man. It really is sickening to do that. All right, go ahead. Speak your truth. You hate on Doogie, the commissioner, right now, or what?
I'll get to Doogie first. And I'm going to be honest. First off, I was able to tune in the beginning of the show. Partsy, I thought it was a very articulate, very beautiful peace offering, which you gave Al's brother. I hope he accepts those basketball NBA Hoops 94 cards that I found in my basement.
He will.
Yeah, and we are going to retire the hashtag, we stole your soul and your cards.
Dude, there's a Michael Jordan card in here.
Really?
There's a Michael Jordan card in here.
Yeah, but it's not a rookie card,
I know.
It's still pretty significant, man.
It's an all-star game.
There's a Larry Bird card in here. Okay, go on.
I thought he'd like them. They could be worth money. I said, you know what? Somebody, maybe it was me, maybe it wasn't. Somebody sniped this guy's cards. Least I can do is give them whatever I've got lying around.
Okay, I like that.
Smart. We're having a Go Card Me instead of a GoFundMe. So we're going to all try and reach out to our buddies.
Yeah, we got to get to the bottom of this.
Maybe you should reach out to a few of your former teammates and have them send you cards for Al's brother in the Go Card Me.
You know what, Noodles? I can do that.
Hang on a sec, Parts. How quickly do you think Russ Wilson would hang up the phone if you said, can you do me a favor and ship me a bunch of your cards for my friend Al's brother? I think you'd get radio silence immediately.
What I would get, that's one option. Or I would get the text to another guy, like 6 managers removed, then to being like some 23-year-old kid, like, hey, I'm Russ's assistant manager. Heard you were looking for a signed autograph card, man. You know, that's another way I could see that whole thing falling out.
Okay. All right. So you offered the piece. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I offered the piece. And Hayes, I got to be very honest here. rightfully so, I took a lot of slack this year, as did my partner, for not winning the regular season. Rightfully so. I will wear that every day. First time, the combination, the greatest gambling combination of all time, O-Dog and myself, lost a regular season matchup. Hell is frozen over. We then go into the playoffs, and we've been dominant. And as much as I'd like to say it's all been us, the idea that you and your partner are stupid enough to bet against Patrick Mahomes we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we ever?
But then all of a sudden, Doogie's like, we'll give it to you by 3 p.m. And clearly had the 1-point lead. 3 p.m. comes. Nothing comes my way. I'm waiting for it. Noodles is the only man of integrity. He should be the commish. But I'll explain. Then all of a sudden, Saquon breaks a 60-yard tutty, and then we get I believe it was a fumble, the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden now, Doogie's like, here's the rules. And he's got like 9 points available, Gatorade colors, coin flip. Also, now the total's bumped. I don't think we've gotten a total right. I think we're one total correct.
It is
both
pathetic.
teams.
It's pathetic the way we've operated on that.
And we're going to have the total equal the same amount of points as the spread in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bloodbath, and it's done because he knew you guys were going to get jammed from patting Mahomes, which you did. And he knew we were going to win the spread there, so he tried to juice points, being like, let's throw this guy's a bone. And I like Doogie. He is a scumbag, but I do have a special place for scumbags in my heart.
Yeah.
But we're not going to, after all the personal attacks from both sides, I mean, I went and stole cards out of Alan's brother's trunk.
I know.
Oh God, we can't bet on a Gatorade color. That's ridiculous.
Okay, well, we got 2 weeks to figure out whatever you guys are willing to accept. Al's brother and I will take on anything. We don't care. You want to do 20 props, 30 props, it doesn't matter. But there have to be a certain amount of points on the table where we can still get back in this. You guys are only +3, and it's the Super Bowl. Last year, there were 10 points on the table, I believe. So at a minimum, we're going to match that so we can have some sort of fireworks come Super Bowl Sunday.
I think
that's
how about this? With us
Noodles
being
is
in
the
the lead, we should have more say on what's available and how it's going to go.
Okay, but you can't just put 2 points on the board or something like that. I mean, last
understood.
year we had a big lead on you guys, and we threw you a lifeline. You guys choked all over it.
Yeah. And then you guys scumbagged all over it and didn't let us finish the trivia to give us a Super Bowl.
Yeah, okay.
Last year, nobody won the playoffs. Don't think I forgot about that.
All right.
And this year, we put our foot down. It's like the election. You guys try to steal it. That's probably an inappropriate joke right now. But anyways, where I'm going with this is I don't care if it's 10 props. If you guys want to go 10 props, I'll go that all day. But I don't really want to get – let's say this thing comes down to it because we've only got – it's a 3-point lead.
Right.
Okay, if you guys get the spread, if that's how we're doing, again, I don't know what we're doing, and we miss the total, and now all of a sudden it's a 1-point lead, and you win the coin toss, I'd rather this thing be like, okay, you pick your 3 props in the spread, we pick our spread in 3 props, or whatever it ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even care if it's first quarter bets. I'll do that too.
Okay.
But
All right,
I'd rather avoid the Gatorade color in the coin toss or the length of the anthem. I want this to be meat and potatoes betting.
That's fine. We will handle that. Doogie's a fun guy. Doogie thought Super Bowl Sunday, trying to be inclusive for everybody. Yeah. You guys are too cool for that. We'll put you down for
we
too
are
cool.
too cool for that. We're getting
too
our hats
cool for that. Okay, fine. Well, that's fine. We'll reestablish whatever the rules are going to be. We got 2 weeks here.
Hats are in production. We are them. Parts, they're going to be glorious.
All right.
What was your hashtag, though? Rampage, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
We're getting 2 different hats. One's Rampage and the other one's We Are Them.
Every quarter it changes. Yeah. Okay, let's get into these games, all right? And let's begin with some of the fourth down plays here. Something to chew on, brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. This January at BP, get delicious mouth-watering pastas starting at $11.99 every single day. Enjoy the pastas you love at prices you can't miss. Hustle in your local BP tonight. Which fourth down play will be remembered more from the AFC Championship game? Allen's 4th and 1 that turned into a stop after the review, or Kincaid's 4th and 5 drop, the last offensive play of the game for the Bills? Which one will you remember? Which one defined the loss more for the Bills?
The Kincaid drop. The Kincaid drop is what I'm going to remember.
Okay.
I mean, you remember them all. It's unfortunate because another play that's going to go forgotten. The James Cook 4th down touchdown. was
unreal,
wild. For him to contort his body and not touch the ground, I was like, jaw-dropping stuff. But that whole fourth down play at the end of the game, the fact that Josh Allen, 1, got that ball off, 2, was able to locate Kincaid, and 3, was able to throw a catchable ball. Was it the easiest catch in the world? No. But it's a play that I think Kincaid's going to want back, and that's not dogging the guy. It's just the truth. He catches that, Parks, and that play is on every highlight reel the NFL has to offer for the next 25 years.
That's right.
Parts, I'm curious, before we get into the greatness of the Chiefs and how clutch they are, if you were hired as a consultant to go in the Buffalo Bills kind of team room and somebody said to you, what do we need to do to get by these guys, what would your answer be?
We need an elite pass rusher. Von Miller's not it anymore. Von Miller, I played against a guy, and there was nobody more elite than Von. But at the moment, he's not it. Greg Rousseau is not a top 5 pass rushing guy, in my opinion. I look at how Buffalo played yesterday, and I don't love the narrative like they didn't make enough plays. Okay, sure. They made a heck of a lot of plays.
Yeah.
They made a heck of a lot of plays. And let's start with Josh himself. The one touchdown that I don't think wasn't on fourth down. There's a 3rd and 9. Boom, he smacks that. There's a 3rd and 13. Boom, he smacks that. Ball's out on time. Everything's rolling. 4th down, the Book makes a sick play for a touchdown. 4th down, Curtis Samuel in the back of the end zone. Sick play. That ball is 1 inch away from being tipped up in the air and potentially picked, and set it to touchdown. Defensively, you got really nothing on Patrick Mahomes against an offensive line that is potentially weak. You look at the week before against Houston, and part of the reason Houston was able to get after him was they got a ton of pressure on Patty Mahomes. So I firmly believe if you get 1 or 2 pieces on the defense, you're there, you win that game. The next thing I'll say that I think Bills fans need to be very careful of is trying to go get a perennial star on offense. You get this idea that, okay, let's go get a guy. And there's 2 styles of offensive coordinators in this league. There's the guys that will sit there and say, okay, my offense runs through this player. And basically, if it's Jamar Chase, for example, we're going to get Jamar Chase 12 targets a game. We're going to hope he catches 10. If he catches 8, it's still a good ratio. There's going to be explosives built in there, and we're going to give him all sorts of different routes, which is, if you got Jamar Chase, it's great. And that's how you like calling plays. It's great. We're going to get him on screens. We're going to get him on goal balls. We're going to get him on all sorts of different stuff. And then everything will come off of that. But then you've got your Joe Brady's, which I want to be very clear, I think the Joe Brady's of the world, and Andy Reid's very similar with what he's got with Mahomes, is the more easier, more efficient way to score points. And that is take what the defense gives you. Okay, we're going to run these plays, and if the route is Shakir's going to be open here, we're throwing that. If the play is, okay, Amari Cooper's going to be open here, we're throwing that. You saw this with Joe Brady last year. He got in there as the OC, and Stephon Diggs went down the hill as far as his production goes. He is not a guy that really wants to star. And, again, the human element of it. I remember this in Seattle when we got my very good friend Jimmy Graham. He'll be the first guy to say it. We ran a Joe Brady-style offense. Oh, it was Golden Tate. It was Doug Baldwin. It was Jermaine Kearse. And then all of a sudden we got Jimmy, and it was so much pressure from the media. How are we going to get Jimmy the ball? How are we going to get Jimmy the ball? And our OC at the time, Darrell Bevel, that's not his comfort zone. He's not a let's get Jimmy the ball at all costs. I'm using the term Jimmy. It could be anybody. So I want to warn Buffalo fans, I think when you do an honest assessment, you have an extremely great offensive line, extremely well-balanced offense. Your 3 backs are very good. Cook was very, very good this year. And Josh Allen played the best football of his career, and he's probably going to get MVP. I still believe that. I don't think you touch that thing very much. You refine it. You can add a couple pieces if you want. Your weakest position, and I'm not saying it's when you drop the ball, but you probably want a little more production out of tight end. Kincaid probably didn't develop as much as Bills fans were hoping. But the key is, if you want to get over this hump, go get an absolute dog on the D-line. Get a game changer, a Chris Jones. Who is that? Is it like I think they want to be at Oliver. You get a Chris Jones got a 1-of-1, but somebody that's in that caliber. You look at Philly; they got Jalen Carter. This guy is playing out of his mind, and now all of a sudden that defense becomes elite. Because the last thing I'll say about Buffalo is their defense was never. They were very middle of the pack when it came to stats, except for one, which was takeaways. And they didn't really take the ball away yesterday. They got a very lucky takeaway because of the operation issue with Mahomes and Pacheco on the handoff. But it's kind of live by the sword, die by the sword. They're great at taking the ball away, and then they run into a guy like Mahomes, who's an elite player when it comes to protecting the football. Outside of that fumble yesterday, I think they had gone like 11 straight games without a turnover. And now you get jammed and you give up 32 points. So I think they're really one player away on defense. And that team's legit. That team's going to do it. I mean, they're obviously already legit. They'll get over the hump.
Where are you at with the narrative of the referees screwed everybody and they're just on Mahomes and the Chiefs' side?
Yeah, Noodles, I think it's an absolute garbage take. I think it's a garbage take. Yes. Is there a debate that it was a first down on the 4th and 1? Yes, there is. I hated how they framed it. Because the up-top umpire or referee who had a marked pass, he doesn't get the final say. If the guy runs to the left, the guy with the better view is like, this is where I had it. I saw it. Okay, so that was just the TV getting everybody wound up. They went to New York and reviewed it. As much as I would love to come on here and say the NFL's rigged, okay, it's not rigged. Okay, it's just not. I don't want to burst anybody's bubble here. But the fact that they went to New York and were like, there's not enough to overturn this. And there wasn't. Like, if you're doing an objective assessment, there was not enough to overturn it. And I could not believe the whole game they struggled with the tush-push. It's like they've been dominant. You've got the biggest, baddest quarterback in the world. Why can't we get 6 inches? You should be able to get a yard and a half. So that one, I get where you're frustrated, but I cannot believe that they even made it close. The catch is a very weird one, but per the rule book, and that's why I think a lot of people aren't complaining, it is a catch for the Chiefs. And, yeah, there's other issues, and there's always going to be that moment, look at this hold, look at that. There's also moments where the Bills got away with things. There's what I thought was a very quick but a false start on a big play in the red zone. One of the touch pushes that did work, I thought was false started, but, again, it happened so fast they missed. Noodles, at the end of the day, there's missed calls in every football game.
Yeah.
The Bills did enough to win that game. They needed to tighten up on 4th and 1 and get a good push from their offensive line in their absolute stallion of a quarterback, Josh Allen. They didn't. I mean, they dropped the ball late, and it's tough, but you just feel like if the situation was reversed and it was Patrick Mahomes who missed the blitz and he rolled out, he threw it to Travis Kelce.
He would have found a way to make it work.
No, Travis would have caught it.
Yeah. And that's, I think, one thing we haven't touched on is that I thought Josh Allen was good. I didn't think he was great. I thought
that.
I agree.
And that needs to be addressed, is that this guy is Superman, and he just simply he didn't do it yesterday. And, he didn't make any plays with his legs. Like, he didn't
Right.
run for anything last night. He didn't get into the end zone. He made some nice throws. He kept them in the game at times, but he kind of did what Lamar Jackson did the week before.
Just kind of okay, Randy.
It was
Carlisle
good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. But if you want to beat Mahomes at Arrowhead, you got to be Superman. And Josh Allen wasn't that yesterday.
Hey, so a couple things. It's funny you say that because I thought the Bills, for the most part, dominated offensively in the second half. They got out there, they ran the football right down the field.
Just like the Ravens the week before. Same thing.
Yes. But what got weird for me, in the throw to Samuel was an elite throw. The throw to Mac Hollins was an elite. I mean, that
great
was
throw.
unbelievable.
Great
with
throw.
a touchdown there. Like, there's 5 guys on planet Earth that can do that, if that. But what was a bit, to kind of further your point, shocking to me, was the way the Bills started. I just felt like the Bills had all this momentum. They had all this stuff going their way. Everything coming into this thing was like, this is their year to get it done. In that first drive, there should have been 2 picks on that. And then the sack and the fumble there. The Bills had 2 turnovers on downs. They did not have any turnovers. And there was a couple throws early where I just felt like, this is kind of the Josh Allen from a couple of years ago. Not the Josh Allen we've seen this year. And that would be disappointing to me because, like you said, it's going to take everything you can to beat Patty Mahomes. And this is, I think, why some Bills fans are a little more let down, is in the media this year, there's this narrative that, the Chiefs are vulnerable, the Chiefs are this, the Chiefs are that. I'm throwing out Week 18 when they benched everybody. The Chiefs are 15-1, and the only loss they have is against Buffalo, where Josh Allen on a 4th and 2 made a miraculous run that was maybe the play of the season to put that game away. And the idea that you're playing the same team that took that kind of effort, except this time in the AFC Championship at Arrowhead, you can't, every single small detail of that game matters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, to me, it's just okay, you said it. What did Mahomes mess up? The exchange with Pacheco? Outside of that, I can't really name anything. And I know it's tough to compare, but what did Mahomes do poorly yesterday?
That's what's scary, man. The guy never misses.
Nothing.
You can't bank on him having an off day. It doesn't happen.
Parts, let me ask you this before we get you out of here, pal.
Yes.
Do you think we could fit on a T-shirt, # we stole your heart and soul and your sports cards?
100%. 100%. What I'm hoping to do, because listen, what I'm hoping to do, to be honest with you, Parts, and I've never really bought a sports card in my life, since I was a kid. But I'm waiting for one of these to surface on eBay. He's posted a few online, and I'm actually going to buy it from the thief if he does. And then I'm hoping that we can get a photo of the card, maybe you and me, holding it up to also put on the T-shirt.
We got to find these cards.
Yeah,
we got to restock
Dude, he'll
Al's
have
brothers.
a nervous breakdown if he sees a pic of us holding the stolen card.
Well, it's a
with our arms
card.
around the guy who stole it.
Well, we don't like that guy.
Yeah,
And that guy's a
the guy who
scumbag.
steals it.
Whoever
who does
stole
that?
this, exactly. You guys are making light of it and joking, but the truth is, whoever, it's just such a gutless, greasy move.
You wanna
breaking into, stealing someone's cards. And
You catch them in the right position.
we're on Team Al's
give them
brother
some
here.
justice.
We are.
Team
And
Al's
trust me,
brother,
I know how
always.
gross it is. I've had 3 cars stolen out of my driveway. It's no fun.
No kidding. Exactly.
Well, that's the world.
That is insane.
No.
It's
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. We got 2 weeks to figure this out. Doogie's on the case. By next Friday, we will have rules and regulations for how we're playing the Super Bowl. Is that all right for everyone?
Love it.
I don't want to hear
Yes.
any complaining
Love
or
it.
anything.
Yeah.
Whatever Doogie says, we'll go as of next Friday. Done. All right, Luke.
All right, let's
Chat
do
soon.
it.
All right, buddy. There he is, Luke Wilson. You guys are in a good place. You're in a good
You're up
place,
3.
Team Owen
It
Wilson.
would
right
take
now.
a colossal collapse. Anything could happen in the Super Bowl, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the Super Bowl, right? Is we need a certain amount of points up for grabs where we can have things spinning one way or the other, and we can still get back in it. Like we granted you guys that opportunity last year. You didn't seize it.
Got to give Philly some love.
Yeah, well, the spread's 1.5.
But that's going to change with
It will, but not substantially. It's not going to be 7.5 by kickoff.
Right.
That's not going to happen. It'll fluctuate a little bit, but Philly's legit. They're really good. We haven't even talked about them today because they just dismantled Washington. That almost felt like a college game. I know
and
that.
Al's brother embarrassed yourselves talking about them the other day.
Well, it wasn't our pick.
I told you that the party was over for Washington.
And it was.
You guys started mocking us.
Barkley, 3 touchdowns. Hurts had 3.
Yeah, it was ugly.
Barkley, his first run was he just shredded the Commanders. And it
ugly.
looked like Alabama versus Eastern Tennessee.
You know
what I mean? It had that feel to
watching
it.
that game? Dan Campbell.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
He would have been like,
yeah, because
We couldn't beat those guys.
we couldn't beat those
We
guys.
couldn't find a way to beat those
Super Bowl,
guys.
though.
That was
Commanders-
Washington's
that's
Super
what
Bowl,
I'm saying.
beating the Lions.
Beating
week
the
before.
Lions
Yes.
was their Super Bowl. That was it.
Yes.
They got their win. Move on with life.
But
that
still,
was it.
sickening if
Cinderella.
you're Detroit. Sickening if you're Detroit.
Yeah, Dan Campbell would have broken a few kneecaps or bit.
But think about what Saquon would have done to that Lions defense, too.
Yeah.
They weren't stopping him. There was no
No,
way.
you're right.
But the offense maybe could have kept up.
Yeah.
All right, Pierre LeBrun will join us on the Rantanen trade, Mikko Rantanen trade, and the fallout of that on both sides. Carolina, Colorado, what do they do in Colorado moving forward? Could there be other deals percolating throughout the league? Get into that and more with Pierre, and our best bets still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, best bets powered by FanDuel later in the hour. Pierre LeBrun coming up here in a moment. The Super Bowl is set, and every incredible playoff moment on TSN is powered by Bud Light, a refreshing taste that's easy to enjoy. Tune in game day for pulse-pounding action. So Mikko Rantanen is a Carolina Hurricane, and when we signed off on Friday, we didn't see this one coming.
Nobody did.
Right? No one saw this one coming. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. I think if you're Carolina, it's totally worth the move.
I had in my bingo card
Great play.
Them letting them let him walk for free ahead of this.
Yes, I thought maybe Colorado would say, you know what, if we can't make a deal work, so be it. We're going to try one last kick at the can.
Yeah.
And instead, they said, forget it. Like, we know you're walking because we're not going to pay you whatever you're asking for, and we're going to get whatever we can.
Well, Neshcash is a good player, like a really good player.
Yeah.
You ever seen him play in the playoffs, though?
No.
That's the concern, and that's what you're getting in Rantanen. This guy's a playoff beast.
But they're also getting Neshcash and cap space to add somebody else significant.
Jack Drury, they got a couple of picks.
That's where I think, I want to see the end product out of this because I think they're only halfway through it.
Possibly.
And we talked last week about being like the top 5 boardroom conversations that we'd like to be involved with, like as of right now in different sports teams. There's different things being floated about this convo. What was he asking for? Why did they actually pull the trigger on deal? I'd love to be all access behind the scenes to everything.
Well, let's bring in Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider, try to get some answers on that. Pierre, can you set the record straight or as straight as you can possibly set it on why Colorado decided to trade Mikko Rantanen?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the easiest answer, at least on the surface, is that they couldn't get him signed, but it doesn't explain the timing and everything else. I will say this. I had a chance to interview Chris McFarland, the GM of the Avalanche, over the weekend, and I thought it was pretty revealing in some of the answers that he gave me in that interview, the piece in The Athletic. And I'll tell you the one that caught my attention. I want to know what you guys think of it. I said to him, obviously you didn't sign him, that's why you traded him. And the start of his quote was this, quote, "I don't know if we can say we couldn't sign him." And then he went on to say that when you have a player of Nathan MacKinnon's caliber and his contract and Cale Makar and his stature and his next contract, so on and so on and so on. What I got from that answer is a new wrinkle to all this, which is this. It wasn't just whether or not they could sign Rantanen. I think they felt they actually probably could, given the last conversation they had with his agent. This was more about making a decision, a huge one, that they didn't want, once they signed Makar in 2 years' time, and that's going to be a massive extension, that they have made a calculation that they couldn't have 3 guys eat up that much of their cap. That's what this is really about in my mind. Now, listen, whatever Colorado's last offer was, and there were contract talks last week, multiple sources confirm that. Obviously, had he signed their last offer, he'd still be there. He didn't. But I will also tell you, and Rantanen has been quoted in multiple outlets, including in The Athletic today, Rantanen was willing to take less than market value to stay. Clearly, what less than market value was to them was still more than what the Avalanche were willing to go to. But again, the answer from McFarland in my interview with him about looking to the future with Makar's next contract, I thought that was really revealing. This is just as much about not wanting to tie up that much of the cap in 3 players.
Who's pulling the trigger on that, McFarland or Joe Sakic?
Well, listen, they work together, O-Dog. It's a great question, obviously. They work together. Joe Sakic's his boss, but they're obviously on the same page here on this. I mean, this was a very difficult decision for that organization. And, we'll see if they regret it or not. I mean, I heard you guys just as I came on. I mean, they got some pretty good pieces for it. Now, here's the other part of this that I find interesting. One of the things I tried to press McFarland on was, because none of us had heard a whiff of Mikko Rantanen being on the market, let's be honest, is that he clearly did not involve that many teams in this. It's very reminiscent of the Joe Thornton trade 20 years ago that way. And the reason for that, as he told me when I asked him about it, is that he felt that to have other teams in this, there were a number of teams that would have wanted Rantanen signed to an extension as part of a trade. And they made the calculation simply that they didn't want to go down that road where they open it up, where the player and the agent are now involved. Everything gets out, in the public, obviously. It becomes a whole different thing. I think we can all agree to that. And I think part of it is Carolina, at the end of the day, offered up the kind of pieces that they felt were going to be hard to beat in their estimation in jury and interest. So, again, you rarely win the trade where you trade a 6th highest score in the NHL, which they did here in Rantanen. And Chris McFarland couldn't have been clearer in their interview. He said it was really hard. Like, you could hear the strain in his voice. Really hard to trade Mikko Rantanen. But they thought about this long and hard, guys, about what it meant, even if they could try to get Rantanen close to their number, what it actually meant in 2 years when they signed McCarr. And that's why they dealt him.
Was there a last, coming to Jesus meeting where maybe MacKinnon involved? I'm curious about McKinnon's involvement, if at all, anything. He was just left in the clouds in this one?
Yeah. He was completely blindsided, is what he said himself to reporters on Saturday, O'Donnell. He did not see this coming. I mean, he knew. In fact, what he said is that he assumed, by the way, so did I assumed that this will go down to the wire like it did with Gabriel Landeskog in July of 21. You guys may remember that. That one got testy. There was a tweet. I don't know if you remember all this. And then they signed him at the 11th hour. And McKinnon just assumed that this whole thing would go down the wire close to July 1st and they would get it done. The timing of this surprised everyone. Absolutely. Because they still have 5 months to try and sign him. But once I was off the phone with McFarland on Saturday night when we did this interview, I was a little clearer now in terms of why this got done now and didn't have to wait. I mean, they got what they wanted from Carolina. They decided that they didn't want to tie up their cap with 3 guys in the next couple of years, and they pulled the trigger.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder if they made that decision months ago, Pierre. If Colorado had decided this well in advance that we're going to let this season play out, and like you said, we know McCarr's coming up in a couple of years. You're going to pay him, and McKinnon's already making $12.6 million, and this is a philosophy thing that we have to make a decision on, and it's going to be tough. What I appreciate is Carolina stepping in and saying, we'll take him, and we'll pay whatever you need.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a brilliant move for Carolina. I look at the East. I think the East is wide open. I do not see any team that is the defined favorite. Washington's been good. Florida's very good, obviously. But I think Carolina just made the biggest splash you could possibly make, and they're clearly a better team today. And, man, they end up winning a Stanley Cup. It's just a brilliant, brilliant move.
No question about it. And everything comes with risk. And the reality is it may be that Carolina would have been the only team to give up those types of assets for a guy that may lose in 5 months. It may very well be. As good as Rantanen is, I talked to another team this weekend that had heard very faintly that something was starting to brew with Rantanen, but they just said, "Hey, we're not going to give up major assets for a guy that we don't think we will be able to sign." So that's what that's why Carolina is stepping up here. They don't care, and I talked to Eric Tulsky this weekend too, the GM of the Hurricanes, and one of the things that they said is that now that they have him, they are very bullish in their thought process that 2 things. One, they're the only team now that can give Mikko Rantanen 8 years. No other team can. So that's a big thing for them. The total money over 8 years. 2, he's close friends with Sebastian Aho, and Tulsky feels that once Rantanen sees, what that room is like in Carolina and how they do things, that they'll be able to convince him. Now, there's no guarantee. He may be gone July 1st, and Tulsky acknowledges that. They're willing to take that risk. And the other thing I would say is Tulsky made a point of saying this to me. Losing a player like that would obviously be terrible, but the Hurricanes embrace cap room. They see cap room as a weapon. The worst case scenario, they lose Mikko Rantanen, then they come up with a plan to go trade or sign other guys. That's what he said. And I don't know how many teams have that view. I think a lot of teams would look at that and say, you just gave up two pretty good players for a guy you might lose in 5 months. Not to mention, they literally just lived this with Jake Gensel. They traded for Jake Gensel, tried to sign him, and lost him. But the difference this time, according to Tulsky, they have way more cap room to play with than they did a year ago.
So this all happens over the weekend. Do you think now this starts a domino effect? You know, you look at Vancouver's situation, and I know Jimmy Rutherford, Patrick Alvin, I mean, they're not going to just knee-jerk reaction, but that seems like that's been going on and dragging out in Vancouver for a long time. I don't know what they're planning on doing, but doesn't this maybe open up the market to say, okay, if somebody's going to pull the trigger, we saw what Colorado and Carolina did, maybe there's some other manager that's on the fence of doing something that pushes him over to go, I need to do this too.
It might, Noodles. I mean, first of all, the impact for Vancouver is they just lost a trading partner. I mean, the Canucks and Hurricanes were deep in talks on a trade that would have been the other option for Carolina this past week. I tweeted that Friday night, but Carolina and Vancouver went deep on one. No one involved wants to confirm whether that was from Miller or Pettersson. I think it's Pettersson. But I know that Carolina spoke to Vancouver on each player over the last several weeks. Whatever it was, they decided to go Rantanen instead. Carolina did. But that leaves Vancouver now with having to circle back to the other teams they've been talking to on both Miller and Pettersson. And, I think it's been a tough go here because the Canucks are obviously trying to, I think, move one of these guys and get something in return. And that's the difficult part in season of trading these guys with term. And you kind of just saw it. I don't know what was on the table for sure in the Carolina-Vancouver trade. I don't think it's fair for me to speculate without knowing 100%. But we know one thing. The difference between trading for Pettersson or Miller versus trading for Rantanen is that if you're trading for Miller and Pettersson, there is the opposite kind of risk of a pending UFA. There's a risk of maybe not loving the contract you're inheriting. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's somewhat telling. Well, first of all, Rantanen is obviously the best of the three players, but it's still telling that they went the risk route in terms of a pending UFA when they had clearly something they could have done with Vancouver as well.
Ooh. Yeah, it's pretty significant, man. Those are great trades, like hockey trades. Right? Yeah. Like that's and that's what I would say, like you just pointed out, Pettersson, Miller, they've got their own baggage. They've got contracts. They're great players, but Rantanen's just simply better. And if you're in a 1-year window, if you're Carolina and you think I can win this year, you give me the option of Rantanen, Miller, Pettersson, everyone on earth is taking Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, but do yourself a favor and go get a goalie and go get another defenseman, too, if you're going to do that.
Yeah, that's the question. If you've gone all in.
Reddy's back.
Reddy is back, reactivated, ready to rock here.
Yeah. Well, one thing Eric Tulsky told me is that as soon as he welcomed Taylor Hall and Mikko Rantanen to the team on Saturday, he went to his hotel room and started making more calls to teams.
Well,
because he doesn't want to be done. He wants to try and potentially make another move before March 7th. So. Yeah. I mean, we throw the expression all in around way too much. I know Jerry Jones does. But I can tell you right now, the Carolina Hurricanes are all in. Yeah. No question about it. And I think it's partly what you said, Brian, that the East, I think this is the most wide open, the top and the bottom, frankly. The whole conference, this is the most wide open I've ever seen it. There's not a juggernaut team at the top of this. All due respect to Washington, who was a great story. All due respect to the Leafs, who are having a really nice year under Craig Berube. There is not a juggernaut team at the top of the conference, and I think Carolina took that into calculation. But there's also this. O'Dog knows this. He has ties to the organization. The Hurricanes have been taking swings here year after year after year. It reminds me a bit of San Jose in their glory days. You don't get to do it forever, man. I mean,
at some point you'll pay a price. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going for it.
And I'm sure they won't be alone. The question is, who else is going to be out there? Like we know the Vancouver scenario, but if only one Rantanen's available, they got him. Like other guys will be traded, but not of that stature,
just curious,
not of that impact.
And Pierre, I know it started floating out there. Well, now does that link? They've got cap space in Colorado. Does that link them to Sid? And
I saw that on Friday night. Yeah.
You know what, though? Okay, you can definitively, and we all can say definitively no right now. But what if Pittsburgh goes 0-12 in the next 12 games by the deadline? And
they've basically gone 0-12.
Well,
They're
I'm just
done
saying.
anyway.
I'm
Even if
just
they
saying.
sneak in, they're
They're
not doing
just
anything.
ahead of Buffalo.
I'm just saying that
I listen. We all get the Nate McKinnon Sid connection, and no one's going to deny that.
Right.
Let me start before I get radio here.
yes,
Let me start by saying, because I feel like it's like a legal obligation. We checked this weekend. CJ and I dragged everyone involved with Pittsburgh and Sidney Crosby's camp. Completely shot down any possibility of that. Okay, so let me get that off my chest, just so so we know that.
Yeah.
But I said this before on your show, guys. I mean, because Brian and I love this topic, but I said this before. When he signed that 2-year extension, everyone's like, "Oh, that's it. He's not going anywhere." That wasn't my reaction. I looked at the way they structured the deal and saw that it was front loaded, and that the last year of that extension makes him easier to move. That's what I saw. Now, that doesn't mean it'll ever happen. Every time Sidney Crosby's quoted on this, he says, "I'm finishing my career in Pittsburgh," and I believe him. That's how he feels. That doesn't mean he'll feel the same way in a year or two. For this year, I find it hard to believe, but, I mean, if you would have asked me a week ago if Mikko Rantanen was getting dealt, I would have told you no. So, but, you know, that's, you never know. But right now, it doesn't feel like that would be a thing before March 7th, but things could change.
yep.
Anything is possible. All right, Pierre. Well, we'll leave it there. I mean, it's good to be talking big trades, and we're getting closer to the trade deadline. Hopefully more is going to happen. We know there will be deals taking place, but it's go time now, man. Floodgates are open.
It's interesting, like I said last week, how many teams want to take care of business before formations?
Yep.
And how many are forced or actually want to wait for that tight period after it.
Yep.
That's going to be interesting to follow.
Absolutely. All right, Pierre. Thank you for doing this. Appreciate it.
Right on.
Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider.
Should have asked him about his new coach in Dallas.
I just feel like Cowboy fans are not in the mood for it. Brian Schottenheimer, it's almost depressing to watch Jerry Jones try to convince the world he knows what he's doing. And
If I was Brian, I'd bring out those stinky old gold glasses like Marty used to wear. Remember those square gold
Marty
glasses?
Schottenheimer.
He used to wear a flat hat, like a flat brim hat, pulled down over his eyes.
Why
with
not?
Gold
Big
set
glasses.
of glasses.
Bring your old man's goggles out. Do it.
Yeah. Marty Schottenheimer was the original Sean McDermott. Like, he'd get to the dance every single year, just couldn't close, man. Could not close, could not win. Clock malfunction, poor game planning, too conservative.
It was definitely one of the football names back in the day.
Oh,
though.
yeah, Marty Schottenheimer. He jumped around. He'd always turn a program around and just couldn't win in the end.
Well,
That's Marty.
man,
But, yeah, Brian Schottenheimer, the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Go from the bridge. Get a good pic of Marty with those shades on when we come back from break. I want to have a good look at these.
All right, we'll come back with a picture of Marty Schottenheimer and our best bets powered by FanDuel. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm on the Raptors' money line tonight. You're getting a little bit of plus money on that. It's like plus 102. It's New Orleans. There aren't many teams in the league worse than the Raptors. New Orleans is one of them. And, yes, Zion's playing, but I don't trust Zion Williamson in Toronto last night. Sunday night in January is not exactly a rock star night, but he may have gotten up to something last night. Who knows? And Scotty Barnes has been outstanding. Eastern Conference Player of the Week. They're coming off 2 wins in Atlanta. Very rarely do I look at the Raptors at any point and think that's a good bet. I think the play's Raptors tonight, plus money against New Orleans. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Bet the NBA live from first basket to the final whistle on FanDuel. Please play responsibly, 19 plus, physically located in Ontario.
Wow.
All right, we got 2 weeks of the Super Bowl buildup, right?
Fired up for it.
Fired up for that.
Zion's status for Pelicans versus Raptors. Is he playing?
Oh, maybe he's not even going to play now. Would it shock you if he pulled the shoot?
We got a Schottenheimer
I think
pick
he
or
is
no?
playing.
Look at this guy. Look at those shades,
Like
man.
Walter Marty, man. Yeah. Oh, he wore those everywhere he went, Marty Schottenheimer.
Man, oh
Man, he jumped around the league and was always like turned a program around and then just ran out of steam.
I don't know why, but I think of him with the Redskins. Was he not with the Redskins? Marty Schottenheimer?
I don't know if he was. He was with the Browns. He was with the Chargers when they were good. When LT was there and Rivers early in his career, they went 14-2 one year with Marty and just crapped out in the playoffs.
Wow. Love it.
Yeah. Anywho, good stuff today.
Way to work.
Doogie, the commissioner, he's got about 8-9 days to figure this out.
Fired.
What the point system's going to be.
You're fired.
I might
We're
have
thinking
to
of
get
Al's
involved.
brother
I'll
today.
at least maybe
You get
consult.
involved. Yeah. Al's brother's not been feeling great. We got to get his cards back. We got to get Al's brother's card. Yeah, there he is with the Chargers. I feel for Al's brother, man. I sent him a text, too. I'm like, everything okay? I haven't heard from Al's brother. I'm worried about my partner. But he'll be back for the Super Bowl. I know it.
Yeah.
I know it. All right. Good stuff. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.